Good evening, I'm Ces Orenia Drilon.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Sean Yao.
The big stories tonight. In 6 days, the hearing to determine if Rodrigo Duterte is going to trial or not is happening. There's information that 2 witnesses will be there to testify against the former president.
The Education Department is suggesting a trimester system in public schools to take the load off the curriculum and teachers. But this early, the proposal is already raising concerns.
And 24 Filipino seafarers are in danger of getting caught in the crossfire between Russia and Ukraine after they were recruited to man a shadow fleet in the war-torn territory.
Duterte panagutin! Duterte panagutin! Convict! Convict Duterte now!
With the confirmation of charges hearing of former President Duterte happening next week, relatives of drug war victims have been allegedly receiving threats from Duterte supporters. In The Hague, Duterte's defense team has made a last-ditch effort to disqualifying Filipino lawyers representing the victims from the proceedings. Mobile Journal Denise Valdesancho with tonight's big story.
The prosecution takes no position. This was the response by International Criminal Court prosecutors to the motion of defense lawyers to disqualify external legal representatives of victims in the case against former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte. This was made clear by Deputy Prosecutor Ma Mandyaya Nyang in a 3-page document dated February 16. Nyang informed the chamber that the prosecution will not take a stance on the motion and will stand by the chamber's ruling. In an 11-page filing on February 12, Defense Counsel Nicholas Kaufman sought to have Filipino lawyers Joel Butuyan and Gilbert Andres removed as legal representatives of victims in the ICC proceedings. Kaufman also sought the disqualification of Nicole Arquena, who was recently designated by the ICC as case manager for the victims. The defense asked the ICC's pretrial chamber 1 to revoke the lawyer's designation, alleging conflict of interest. They claimed that Butuyan and Andres have a professional relationship with Arquena, having worked with her at Center Law Philippines. Butuyan was a managing partner and Andres a senior partner from 2019 to 2023. Should they be disqualified, the defense pointed out that an attorney from the Office of Public Counsel for the victims may represent the interests of the victims. The confirmation of charges hearing in Duterte's case is scheduled to begin on Monday, February 23, in The Hague. But this early, relatives of drug war victims claim they have received threats from Duterte supporters. ICC Assistant to Counsel Cristina Conti divulged this information in a press conference of the Duterte Panagutin Network.
May ganong threat na paatrasin o patahimikin yung mga biktima. Sa kabilang banda, kapag pumunta doon, syempre hindi na rin namin alam yung emosyon ng mga tao, pero nakakakuha kami ng sentimiento na hindi welcome ang mga biktima, hindi welcome ang mga abogado ng biktima sa The Hague. Lalo na sa mga lugar na idineklara na nila na Duterte Street, Duterte Park, na parang hindi daw yon, hindi welcome ang mga quote-unquote, akala nila sinasabi nilang anti-Duterte.
Conti says many victims' relatives want to witness the hearing firsthand, but are now having second thoughts for fear of their safety. The group, Conti says, is also trying to tame attacks online from paid trolls.
May ibang totoong tao, may ibang hindi. Kaya hirap din po kami kung papaano sasalagi ng isang troll army na hindi mo kita agad at hindi mo naiintindihan. Ang timing, mukhang sa hapon, depende din sa instructions. Magkakasabay. So, yung inauthentic behavior, it comes at a particular time, number 1. Number 2, pare-pareho po ng script. So, yan yung isang sinusubukan namin na meron ding counter-troll armies. At ito po, mga totoong tao.
Conti also confirmed the possibility of the prosecution calling in 2 witnesses for the confirmation of charges hearing. These witnesses are said to have knowledge on how the drug war was planned and executed. There have been speculation that self-confessed Davao Death Squad hitman Edgar Matabato and former police colonel Royina Garma will stand as witnesses against Duterte. Conti, however, dismissed this, saying the witnesses will only be known during the hearing itself. Conti also believes Duterte will be present in the February 23 proceedings, and it is expected that the defense will play up their claim of Duterte's deteriorating health.
Pinaghahandaan din po namin at hindi lang ng mga biktima, pati ng mga advocates, ang pagharap niya bilang kakaibang tao na. At baka po ang itsura niyan ay mukha po siyang ermitanyo. Ayon sa salaysay na rin ng kanyang mga kaanak. Siya po ay payat, pero glowing, sabi ng kanyang dating asawa. Ang kanya pong buhok ay maputi na, posibleng pinahaba. So sabi nga namin, payat na Santa Claus.
For human rights lawyer Neri Colmenares, whatever factor the defense will use in court does not erase the ordeal the families and relatives experienced from the killings. Colmenares has also been giving legal assistance to the drug war victims.
Ang pinaka-main na masasabi namin sa shock and awe o kung ano pa man yung gawin nila ay yung katotohanan. Ang katotohanan at ang karapatan ng lahat na maghanap ng hustisya. Tingin ko yung mensahe na yon, maintindihan niya nino man, pro-Duterte o hindi pro-Duterte, kasi marami rin silang alam na walang hustisya pero pinatay o ninakawan o ni-rape o kung ano pa man at naghanap din sila ng hustisya.
According to the ICC, Duterte's February 23 hearing will run for 5 hours with breaks in between. This proceeding will determine whether or not sufficient evidence exists to move the case forward to trial. The ICC case stems from allegations tied to charges of crimes against humanity, allegedly committed in the Philippines between November 2011 and March 2019. That's when Digong was mayor and later on president. The 80-year-old former Filipino leader remains in ICC detention in The Hague, Netherlands, since his arrest on March 11, 2025.
And in other news, the Department of Education is proposing a trimestral program for students from kindergarten to grade 12. Under the current system, a school year has 4 quarters, which begin in June and end in March. There is a mid-school year break, usually during the last week of October, and a holiday break during the last 2 weeks of December. In the suggested trimester system, the school year will be divided into 3 academic terms.
Is necessary before any decision is finalized.
Ito'y proposal pa lamang po at inilalahad nila ang maaaring advantage ng pagkakaroon ng trimester ng DepEd na isinusulong ng DepEd. Nandun pa lang po sa stage ng pagpo-propose. Mas maganda naman po talaga na pinag-uusapan lahat ito ng mga stakeholders, ng mga interested parties, lahat po, para po ma-reach out yung ma-reach yung pinakamagandang programa.
Should the country's K-12 class schedule migrate to a trimester system? Joining us on the program to discuss this is Teachers Dignity Coalition National Chairman Benjo Basas. Good evening. Welcome to The Big Story.
Yes, good evening, Ma'am Ces, Ma'am Sean, and Ma'am Pauline. Magandang gabi po sa inyo lahat.
What are your thoughts on a trimester system, and could you give us the pros and cons of this proposal?
Well, as of now, no, we don't have a comprehensive na review of this proposal yet, no. Kasi even the Department of Education po, wala pa naman silang ibinibigay, no, hindi pa rin naman sa amin 'to ibinaba. Wala pa rin naman kaming some sort of consultation with our organization or with other organizations din po in the Department of Education or teachers organizations, no. So may sinasabi sila, of course, no, we recognize, no, na merong mga consultations na ginawa ang Department of Education in the past, no, beginning this year, 'di ba? Pero so far po, no, Ma'am Ses, wala pa kaming nabalitaan ng miyembro namin na kasama sa na-consult o baka hindi lang nag-report sa amin, ano. So ganun po, no, yung aming pagtingin po dito. But of course, I'd like to clarify, hindi po kami magsasara. Hindi kami nagsasara, no, dito sa proposal po na ito, no, at gusto po naming malaman ano ba, saan nang gagaling yung rationale, no, ano yung hugot ng Department of Education dito, no. Is this consistent with the findings and recommendations of the EDCOM 2?
Yeah.
Of course, we don't know. No, but as I have mentioned po, no, kami po ay bukas po dito at gusto po naming malaman, ano. Pero medyo nakakagulat lang, no, kasi abrupt, no, at hindi talaga namin we do not have any idea, no, of this proposal, no, coming from the Department of Education, ano. Well, thanks to the media reports, no, and social media, of course, doon lamang po namin na nalaman, ano, considering, no, na ang plano ng DepEd ay mag-shift tayo doon sa trimester system by school year 2026-2027. So that's by June, no, of this year po.
So, well, the DepEd should learn from the K-12, hindi ba? Yung K-12, medyo matagal din yung consultation, ganyan. And its implementation was really kind of very controversial. And up to now, there's some who are still unconvinced. So, ano ba ang kinakailangan? Ito na lang siguro ang mas magandang itanong namin sa inyo. Yung malawakang konsultasyon, ano ba ang dapat gawin ng DepEd para maipatupad ito?
Well, una, the DepEd, they have to convince, no, our teachers, no, yung ating mga stakeholders, no. Teachers primarily, Ma'am Ses, kasi kami yung nandito eh. Diba, kung matatanda ninyo, pinag-uusapan natin more than a decade ago yung tungkol sa K-12, di ba? Hindi naman natin sinasabi na sana pumalpak ito. Pero ang lahat ng assessment po dito, even ng ating gobyerno, no, well, it's a failure. No, even President Marcos, no, sinasabi niya, no, na failure itong K-12, no, especially itong grades 11 and 12, no. Itong senior high school natin, no. May studies din po, no, yung even yung ating mga employers, no, yung World Bank, yung CHR, no, lahat po, no, yung EDCOM, no, ay nagsasabi, no, at hindi naman natin to lang ina-attribute, Ma'am Ses, doon dahil sa kawalan ng consultation. In fact, itong K-12 po, nakabuelo ito ng mahaba-haba eh. Diba? Nakabuelo po ito ng mahaba-haba. Simula nung pumasok ang Aquino administration nung when was that? 2010, ano? Pinush ito ni Brother Army, na-convince niya yung mga mambabatas, no? Mahaba-haba. Pero ganito pa rin yung naging resulta. No, ang sinasabi lamang naman po namin dito, no, lahat po ng ating mga reform initiative, no, sa education sector, kailangan po talaga nito ay kasama, no, kasamang niyayakap po ito ng ating mga stakeholders. And of course, hindi natin pwedeng kalimutan, ano, yung basic, no, yung fundamental, no, necessities ng ating public school system. Kasi ang gustong i-resolve, no, ng DepEd, no, dito po sa issue na ito ay mabawasan yung disruption of classes. Tama po yan, no. Isa pa ay mabawasan yung workload ng mga teachers. Lalong tama rin po yan. Wala po kaming tutol dyan, of course, no. Pero baka naman hindi natin napapansin, ano, yung mas mahalagang bagay, no, dito po sa ating system, o baka naman hindi natin iyon napapansin, ano, hindi yung strategic po, di ba? Ilan yung classrooms natin na kulang, babalik kami dito, no. My apologies, of course, no, pero lagi kaming bumabalik po dito, no, sa fundamentals, no. Ilan yung teacher natin na kulang, wala tayong mga gadgets, no, na binibigay sa ating mga eskwelahan or sa ating mga guro and even sa ating mga bata. Internet connectivity, no, of course we're talking about digitization, pero hindi po, no, accessible etong mga gadgets po na ito, etong mga technology based education po, no. Ang dami po nating mga problema. Of course ang mga teacher natin, no, hirap na hirap sa pagbibigay ng disiplina, no, sa pag-aayos ng mga grades sa mga bata dahil sobrang dami nila. no, yung mga bata natin ay nagsisiksikan, no, overcrowded pa rin yung ating mga classrooms. These are the realities, no, of our public school system, no. To be particular, no, ito po sana yung una nating nire-resolve. Of course, hindi naman namin sinasabi, no, dahil ganito yung system natin, dahil ganito yung problema natin, wag na tayo mag-isip ng ibang mga pamamaraan, di ba? Of course, hindi ganoon po, no, yung aming punto. Ang sinasabi lamang po natin, pwede naman natin po yung pareho, no, na tugunan. Right now, no, pinakamalaki sa kasaysayan, unprecedented yung budget ng Department of Education, and of course, no, we're glad, no, na ito ay ginawa, no, binalik, no, restore ng gobyerno yung pedestal, no, ng education in terms of allocation of budget, dahil noong 2025 ay hindi po ito ginawa, no. So ngayon ay naibalik, and unprecedented, mataas pa rin, no. Mataas na, I mean, no, pero malaki pa rin, no, yung pagkukulang po natin. So siguro bago po itong mga ganitong bagay, kinakailangan, again, no, ulitin ko po, no, kinakailangan po, no, magkaroon muna ng mga pag-uusap sa level. Alam mo, Ma'am Ses, hindi kami magre-react ng ganito, no, na magugulat, and perhaps even well, Senator Bam Aquino, no, hindi rin naman siguro siya mag-react, no. He's the chair of the Senate Basic Education Committee, no. Kung nasabi sa kanya ahead, no, or ganun din kami, no, kung nasabi sa amin din ahead, no, at kami naman ay well, we appreciate, no, the DepEd, the current DepEd leadership, no, dahil talaga naman consultative, no, talaga naman nakikinig din, and in fact yung statement po ng DepEd ngayon, and even ng Malacanang, no, today, ay makikita po natin yon, no, na sabi nila hindi naman ito final pa, ito pa lamang naman ay proposal, at magkakaroon pa po, no. That's the first step, no, supposedly, no, yung consultation po.
Okay. But Sir Benjo, off the top of your head, no, since tatlo nga yung goals ng DepEd in putting forth this proposal, which is to simplify planning, yun yung one. Second, improve the use of academic time. And third, reduce workload on teachers. Kasi if we're talking about a 2-SEM, which is 4 quarters versus 3 SEMs, can you see or tell us in which ways na makaka-reduce ito ng workload ng teachers?
Yes, ma'am, no. Actually, sa aming initial po na analysis, no, kung 4 quarters, no, kasi currently we have 4 quarters. We have 2 SEMs, no, sa senior high school, di ba po? Yung 2 SEMs po natin ay meron din yung 4 na grading periods po. May 4 na quarters din po iyan. No, so 4, well, 4 times, no, in a year na kami gagawa ng grade, no. Yung paggawa ng grade, this is no, this is well, we consider this as part, no, of our academic tasks, no. These are teaching related tasks talaga na hindi namin maiiwasan, no, kasi assessment ito sa mga bata, no. May periodical exams po tayo na 4 sa kasalukuyan, no. So one thing na possible, no, na makagaan po sa trabaho ng mga teacher, no, and we recognize this, no. Baka nga po, no, instead of 4 times, no, nagagawa kami ng mga grades, mag-aanda, no, ay magiging 3 times na lang, no. May problema lang din diyan kapag ang nangyari po, like sa senior high school, di ba? May 3 semesters sa senior high school, no. From magkakaroon tayo ng 3 semesters from 2 semesters currently. Di ba? Pero for grading periods din yon, no? 4 quarters din yon. Ngayon po, kung meron tayong 3 semesters, hahatiin pa natin yan. No? Baka hatiin din po yan sa dalawa, no? Kada isang
baka
semester.
dumami pa lalo.
Opo. So, yung mga ganung detalye, ma'am, no, hindi pa natin alam, no, kasi kaya hindi pa namin din hindi pa talaga kami makapag-react, no, ng eksakto, no, as per, of course, proposal, no. You haven't seen the proposal yet.
Okay, so let's not overreact on that. But I wanted to ask you also, Benjo, about, di ba nagpalaki sila ng number of new teachers, yung voucher program, meaning they're gonna onboard a lot more teachers. Kamusta na po tayo doon? Has that come to fruition?
Yes, ma'am. No, right now, no, marami naman po talaga itong fiscal year 2025 po na katatapos lang. Meron po tayong, if I'm not mistaken, around 15,000 new or more than 15,000 na new items, no, new teaching positions, na. At ngayon po the DepEd again is planning, no, to hire some 30,000, no. So parang mako-close po natin yung gap, sabi nung DepEd, no. And of course, again, that's something that we have to recognize din, ano, doon sa effort ng ating Department of Education, ng Kongreso, ng gobyerno sa whole, no. So pero konti pa dito, kulang pa dito no. Kasi sa tansya po ng ating gobyerno, around 60,000 na lamang yung kulang na teacher. At may isasara yan, no? May isasara yung gap ngayong 2026. Well, salamat po kung gano'n, no? But of course, kasi ano yan, no? Aggregate po yan, no? Pag tinignan po natin yan, no, na specific sa mga divisions o sa mga communities o sa mga localities po, medyo kakaiba pa rin, no? Iba pa rin, no? Like for example sa NCR, sobra talagang crowded, no, yung ating mga paaralan po.
And Sir Benjo, nabanggit nyo nga, when it comes to the proposal to roll out a trimestral system, kailangan pa ng maraming konsultasyon. So it might not be so feasible to implement this coming school year, 2026-2027. So for you, what are some low-hanging fruits that could be implemented right away to address the problems in our education system?
Well, para sa amin, of course, no, sectoral, no, na concerns ng public school teachers, no. We have this law, no, we call it the Magna Carta for Public School Teachers, no. There are many in fact, no, provisions of this law po na hindi pa patutupad, no. Marami po 'yan, no. To name a few, no, yan po yung supposedly, no, yung medical services, no, free, no, medical services para sa ating mga teachers, no. Kasama din po diyan yung paid study leave, no, yung mga ganun po, no. Marami po 'yan, no. Hindi ko na isa-isahin, no. So kaya po ito, no, sa tingin namin kaya po ito ng budget ng Department of Education, no. I'm sorry, I have to mention yung special hardship allowance, no, ng mga guro po natin, at saka yung teaching overload, yung overtime pay, no, ng ating mga guro, no. At isa pa, no, ngayon po at least, no, we appreciate, no, the Civil Service Commission, no, for the wellness leave policy na inadapt na rin ng DepEd, no, earlier po, no, just last week po naglabas ang DepEd ng order, no, regarding this po, no. So ang mga teacher for the first time po magkakaroon po kami nung wellness leave, no, para itong sick leave, kasi we do not have any. Wala pong sick leave ang mga teacher sa Pilipinas. Wala po kaming vacation leave, no. Yan po ay isang masaklap na katotohanan yan, no. So these are I would say, no, low hanging fruits na pwedeng natin reachable, no, na pwedeng gawin ng ating Department of Education. And of course, no, with the budget po, no, na medyo malaki naman, ano, at baka kaya naman po, no, na maisakatuparan din, ano, yung iba pang mga pangangailangan, like for example po, no, bakit hindi nakakabasa yung mga bata, hindi natututo, no, sobra ang kagutuman po, no, ng ating mga mag-aaral, no. So ngayon po naman ay naglaan din ng budget, no, ang ating Kongreso para doon sa school-based feeding program, no. And sana lang ma-prioritize yung mga talagang nangangailangan, ano, ng mga bata, no. But this gonna be universal, no. So mas maganda po ito ngayon.
Because if there's anything that we learned, Benjo, din, from the EDCOM2 report, is that napakalalim na at structural ng mga issues pagdating sa ating learning crisis. So with that, when it comes to the trimester system, do you think it's less about the calendar and more about reducing yung competencies, optimizing our curriculum and subjects?
Ginawa na din naman po yan in the recent past, ma'am, no. Ang problema lang, no, parang hindi pa rin, ano, parang sabi natin, ano, sobra yung overcrowded yung curriculum natin. May mga binawas po tayo pero hindi pa rin natin na maximize, no. Hindi pa rin, well, kahit ka optimize, hindi pa rin po, no. Ganun pa rin yung problema natin, lalo na si key stage 1. So isang bagay po na we continuously push for is, of course, no, yung mass focus, no, doon po sa key stage 1, yung kinder up to grade 3. Dapat po sa kinder po natin, ano, nandyan po ilalagay yung mga kinder to grade 3, I mean, lahat po ng pinakamagagaling na teacher, no, sa pagpapabasa. May of course, no, lahat naman ng teacher natin magagaling, lahat ng teacher natin mahusay at matatalino, no. Pero meron pong mga ibang mga teacher po ang kanilang specialization, no, ay yung paano matuturo ang magbasa yung mga bata. Yun dapat po yung nilalagay natin sa kinder. At i-reduce natin yung class size po sa kinder, no. Hangga't maaari nga po, huwag natin pabutin ng 25 kasi ngayon po, no. At least 15, no. Gawin nating maximum na 15 para natututukan nung mga teacher yung mga bata doon sa kinder, no. And then pag akit nila ng grade 1, marunong na sila magsulat, no. basic literacy, no, basic numeracy po, no. Pagdating na ng grade 2 at ng grade 3 yung competencies, no, na expected sa isang grade 3 learner ay nakuha na po nila, marunong na silang magbasa. Kasi sa grade 4 po, iba na yung mga subjects po dyan, no? Meron na po diyang mga science, meron na po diyang mga English, no? Meron na po diyang mga araling panlipunan, no? So, kung hindi naman marunong magbasa yung bata, wala na siya. No, hindi na po siya magpo-progress, no? Kaya sana po, no, yun po yung aming kahilingan. Lagi, even sa mga hearing sa Kongreso, binabanggit po namin yan. Doon natin ma-resolve po, no, yung issue po ng learning competency po natin.
Very good point. At sana dyan talaga ituon ang focus ng DepEd sa mga basics, as you said. Thank you for your time, Teachers Dignity Coalition National Chairman Benjo Basas.
We're just going to take a quick break, but coming up, Senator Ping Lacson explains why he does not want colleagues Bongo and Bato de la Rosa arrested by the ICC should that time come. That story and more when we return. Keep it here on One News.
You're watching the big story here on One News. Senate President Pro Tempore Ping Lacson addressed questions on possible Senate action. That's after Senators Bato de la Rosa and Bongo were identified as alleged co-perpetrators in the ICC's case against former President Rodrigo Duterte. In an interview on our sister program Storycon, Lacson was asked whether or not the Senate could release respondents under its rules. He cited the Constitution's provision on immunity from arrest while Congress is in session. Lacson also said it again, the Senate is not out to protect De La Rosa and Go.
Yung immunity from arrest, yun yung 6 years and below.
Yes, sir.
May immunity from arrest pagka yung Congress is in session.
Yes, sir.
So I suppose yung definition ng Congress is in session, may nagsasabi na sinidye, meaning bandang June ito. Doon mag-adjourn yung first regular session. Meron namang iba pwedeng sabihin na hindi. Pag nag-recess kayo sa March, walang session yung Senate. But of course, even during recess, basta hindi sinidye, tuloy yung trabaho sa Senate dahil nakapag-conduct kami ng mga committee hearings.
Yes, sir.
So that's one issue that we have to resolve. Ano yung definition ng Congress in session or not in session? I'm not protecting my colleagues. Ang pinoproteksyon ko yung legal processes natin, yung Constitution, hindi yung aking mga colleagues. I want to make that clear. Alam mo kung tutusin, kung practical reasons at hindi Constitution pag-usapan, kung selfish, mas gusto ko nga mabawasan yung minority para secure yung leadership ni Tito Sen. Pero that's not what I'm fighting for. What I'm fighting for is the Constitution based on my consultation with the legal experts. At the proper time, at the end of the day, it is only the Supreme Court that can interpret yung constitutional provision kung nag-a-apply ba ito doon sa warrant of arrest ng ICC. Remember, wala pa tayong previous case na ganyan .
Meantime, Lacson, who is also chairman of the Blue Ribbon Committee, said the draft report on the flood control scandal has already been circulated. The panel is seeking at least 11 signatures so the report can be formally filed and reported out on the floor. Lacson stressed there are no substantive changes to the draft, only a shift in wording to recommend a preliminary investigation instead of directly filing charges. The report earlier recommended criminal and administrative charges against Senators Chis Escudero, Joel Villanueva, and Jigoy Estrada, among others.
Walang substantive na revision doon. Ang binago lang doon, yung salat na recommended for filing of charges, tinalitan namin ng recommended for preliminary investigation, which amounts to the same thing. Specific yung preliminary investigation. Mas nilagay namin yung for filing of charges, ang pupuntahan din nun, preliminary investigation.
Still on Senator Ping Lacson, he says he has received reports that a fellow senator is preparing to file an ethics complaint against him. Earlier, Senator Rodante Marcoleta said he had drafted an ethics complaint against a colleague he accused of spreading a false narrative. Marcoleta did not name the senator, but earlier alleged that Lacson spliced clips from the February CA Committee on National Defense meeting. However, in a post on X, Lacson denied editing any footage, saying he does not even have an idea on how to splice videos. And on to another development, a Philippine Army officer relieved from his post after withdrawing support for President Bongbong Marcos is set to face a general court-martial. Colonel Odi Mongao was relieved in January over a social media post critical of the president. If found guilty, he could be permanently dismissed from service. Meantime, 8 Chinese nationals were arrested after the NBI raided a suspected Pogo hub inside an exclusive village in Alabang, Muntinlupa City. Authorities seized laptops, mobile phones, and other electronic equipment allegedly used for online scams, including so-called love scams. They also rescued another Chinese national who was allegedly being illegally detained inside the compound. The NBI is now coordinating with the Chinese embassy over the incident.
And we have more stories for you. The Department of Migrant Workers now has names of Pinoy seafarers aboard a Russian shadow fleet. The DMW identified around 24 Filipino captains currently on the ship while it probes agencies who recruited these seafarers. According to the European Council, the shadow fleet is composed of illegal old tankers containing crude. These are transported so that Russia can keep earning during what it calls a war economy. DMW Secretary Hans Kakdak says manning these vessels is risky since these ships are not sanctioned by the International Maritime Organization.
What we're doing is looking at the names that we have. 24 ang bilang ng alleged seafarers on board the so-called shadow fleet. But we're still confirming this na possible na sa record namin, deploy sila sa, let's say, Greece o saan pa man, pero they ended up in the shadow fleet with the Greek on board a Greek ship, pero they ended up in the shadow fleet. So that would be a serious offense, of course. But wala pa muna tayong findings na gano'n. Ito ay spekulasyon lamang on our part.
At the moment, Filipino authorities do not know the exact location of the Russian shadow fleet.
Hindi alam kung nasaan sila, yung safety nila, hindi tayo sigurado. So yan ang mga perils ng pagiging kabilang ng shadow fleet. Kaya tayo ay seryosong matter ito at we will get to the bottom of this within the next 24-48 hours para malaman kagad natin, malocate natin kung saan yung mga kababayan natin on board this so-called shadow fleet.
The Department of Foreign Affairs is now coordinating with the Migrant Workers Department in the case of Pinoys aboard Russia's shadow fleet. The DFA is likewise exhausting all means to bring home Raymond Gumangan, the Filipino who is now a prisoner of war in the Ukraine.
Hindi po namin masasabi kung sila ay magkakaroon ng legal consequences o mawawala ng Philippine citizenship. So ang masasabi lang namin as far as the law is concerned, the loss of Philippine citizenship on the ground of foreign military service requires rendering service to a foreign armed force and taking an oath of allegiance.
Now back here at home, the debate on the scope and coverage of the proposed anti-political dynasty law continues. Public consultations are in full swing, with many sectors weighing in on how the important measure should look like. And here's how the discourse went in Bulacan from our mobile journalist, Merimon Reyes.
Ano ka jowa mo pa lang? Kasi po dito, just presented themselves to the public. So kung magjowa lang po sila, covered po ba yun? Or they have to habit or they have to live together before the law will apply to them. Dito po kasi regardless of sexual orientation, ano po kung dalawang becky.
Pero dun po sa bill ko, kahit hindi po sila kasal ng simbahan o civilly, basta meron silang iisang tahanan at pinakikilala ang sarili nila bilang isang couple, kahit nga hindi po kasal, mako-cover nung ban. Kung originally mga mayor ng magkaibang bayan, pero habang nanunungkulan ay nag-ibigan at naging couple, sa susunod na eleksyon ay mako-cover sila. Kung kung cohabiting.
In Senate Electoral Reforms Committee's public consultation in Marilao, Bulacan, the formulation of a Contra Dinastia law was welcomed by its participants with a few recommendations in mind. From the Pampanga State University School of Law, Attorney J.T. Leonardo Santos mentioned the need for a certification similar to a certificate of non-forum shopping, where hopeful political candidates will be disclosing its relationship with incumbent or running politicians to the COMELEC.
Tapos lagyan po ng penalty kapag hindi po siya nag-disclose kasi hindi siya honest. Pangalawa po, lagyan po natin ng rule ng first to file rule para mag-unahan sila. Paano po kung sabay-sabay sila nag-file? Sino po ang ipe-prefer ng COMELEC? Maguguluhan po kasi yung relationship.
Law students, student councils, coalitions, and civil society organizations took to the forum how disappointing it was that the youth have been the ones pursuing clean governance when the elders in the field should have been role models. According to the Model SK Network, the scope of the Contra Dinastia law should also extend to the fourth civil degree of consanguinity and affinity.
Dahil po tayo sa Pilipinas, we are a family-centric country. Most of the household nga po, di ba? Extended family, kasama natin mga lolo natin, lola natin, pamangkin, tito, tita. So, hindi po malayo. Dagdag pa po rito, masyado po tayong nagpapaniwala sa away kunyari ng mga pamilya. Na para bang nagiging teleserye na po yung politika.
Several others asked for assurance on the effectivity of the much-awaited law, as well as the protection of institutions who hope to take a stand against political abuse. Director Temi Lambino of the Commission on Elections also took note that the anti-political dynasty law will not negatively impact the transition of governance as long as there is an established policy on how to properly serve the public.
Paano din po titiyakin na mananatiling ligtas na ang espasyo ng demokratikong partisipasyon ang mga institusyong pang-edukasyon at hindi maging extension ng political machinery. We cannot further risk our futures for the few good dynasties na sinasabi po ng iba.
Yung political ang problema, hindi yung services. As long as we have well-entrenched procedure on how to serve the people, on how services would go to the people, then we wouldn't be worrying about transition. We wouldn't be worrying about kung sino ang uupo.
In addition, Angeles City Vice Mayor Amos Rivera suggested that qualifications to running for public office be amended. Aside from just having the capacity to read and write, he sees that in order to have competent and qualified officials, increasing the literacy requirement should be looked into. A political candidate's campaign expenses, he says, should also be strictly limited to level the playing field and their moral compass.
And naturally, bilang tao, pag-upo po niya na magiging 3 years na mindset po yan kung paano niya babawiin yung nagastos kaysa dun sa 3 years na kung paano siya maglilingkod.
So far, the last consultative meeting will be done on February 19 in Cagayan de Oro City in Misamis Oriental. After that, forums may follow. Senator Risa Hontiveros remains optimistic that the upper chamber will be able to pass its Contra Dinastia law by late March this year. Kapatid Mobile journalist Mary Mon Reyes, we are One News.
Meantime, some people want the Bureau of Customs and Bureau of Internal Revenue gone, two of the supposedly more corrupt agencies in the country. But as Mobile Journal Amy Atienza tells us, this is easier said than done and could even be wishful thinking. The proposal is nowhere near the radar of Congress, the only one that can make the abolition happen.
For some experts, the Customs and Internal Revenue Bureaus should be abolished. If a thorough house cleaning still does not work for the agencies. For now, this could be the only solution to put an abrupt end to the systemic corruption there. According to former Finance Undersecretary Shelo Magno, every time the national budget is in a deficit, it is the default solution of lawmakers to impose more taxes. Still, billions of pesos in taxpayers' money are lost since fresh revenues only become new sources of corruption for unscrupulous officials.
Napapanahon talagang isulong ito dahil ayaw natin na makita na naman natin at matagpuan yung sarili natin na pagkatapos kurakutin ng pera ng bayan, dagdag na tax ang sagot ng gobyerno.
There were already talks of abolishing the BIR since 2001. Before that, former President and now Pampanga Representative Gloria Macapagal Arroyo filed House Bill 0695, which aims to overhaul the BIR. That measure did not hurdle even the lower house. For tax expert Mon Abrea, the creation of a National Revenue Authority could help. This will be an umbrella agency where the Internal Revenue and Customs Bureaus will be under. The head of this body shall be coterminous with the President. There's more. The National Revenue Authority will ensure promotions of staff without backing of politicians, while salaries will be higher than usual, so personnel will not be tempted to engage in shady practices. In the meantime, Abrea says there's a dire need to fix the system of collecting taxes.
We are overtaxed and underserved. Bawat bintana at pintuan may fees na sinisingil. Bawat labas at pasok sa Pilipinas may tax na sinisingil. Paying first world taxes but receiving third world services. Hindi buwis ang problema. Ang sistema ang may butas. This is not a mere collection problem. This is a system design problem.
This early, Customs Bureau spokesperson Chris Bendijo has reservations on the proposal to abolish or deep clean the BIR and the BOC. He said, quote, "A centralized structure might result to undue concentration of powers in one office, which tend to result to prolonged and delayed processes. It must be noted that the BIR and the BOC, though both revenue-generating government offices, have significantly different provinces of focus, not to mention the border protection function of the BOC. Nevertheless, Bendijo says they will fully support legislative intent and wisdom that would best benefit Filipinos. Along the lines of doing away with unnecessary or too much levies, both Abrea and Magno are making a push to scrap travel taxes as well.
This was designed in a different era, martial law, 1977, kung saan hindi pinagbabawal pero dinidiscourage ang pagbiyahe sa ibang bansa para hindi lumabas ang dolyar. 2026 na anyari. Ang talagang sabi niya, that's for infrastructure. Nasaan? Bakit po ang gastos pa rin bumiyahe sa Pilipinas? Bakit po nung pumunta ako sa El Nido, 12 hours yung back and forth na bus ride ko?
Kapatid Amy Atienza, we are One News.
This is still the big story on One News, and the oldest Chinatown in the world is getting a makeover. That story, plus a real-time look at Binondo on this first day of the Year of the Fire Horse, still ahead. Sinyen Kuaila will be right back.
Happy Lunar New Year to our Filipino-Chinese communities around the world. Sinyen Kuaile.
Still on Chinese New Year, the Chinatown Revitalization Project is rolling out new lights, landmarks, and cultural features to boost tourism and business in Binondo. Mobile journalist Arles De Los Santos tells us more.
In celebration of the Chinese New Year, Binondo, the oldest Chinatown in the world, has come alive to illuminate its rich cultural heritage. Among those dazzling with colorful lights with redeemed lives are Binondo Chinatown Arc, Ongpin Street, and the dynamic LED walls in lamppost, which are the birthchild of the Chinatown Revitalization Project that is now on its second phase. It aims to symbolize Binondo's lasting journey with its roots tracing back to 1594. One of the widely visited is the projection mapping show at the facade of the Minor Basilica and National Shrine of St. Lorenzo Ruiz or Binondo Church that shimmers with a 4-minute light show that showcases the storied past of Binondo, including the centuries of culture, faith, and resilience of Filipinos and Chinese that is the reason of what it is today. Those who came to see Binondo for the Chinese New Year couldn't help but pose for a picture and feel the nostalgia.
Instagram worthy. Nice po, ang dami pong food,
Yung mga trending po sa TikTok sa social media, tinatry po namin isa-isa. It's super happy po.
So masaya naman, parang balik tanaw, tapos yung may pagkain, tapos inaano rin namin na mag-New Year, magcha-Chinese New Year na, parang nakikibahagi din kami.
Plaza San Lorenzo Ruiz is also filled with blissful lights and lanterns with the giant statue at the center for the upcoming year of the horse. And if you are looking for something tasty, let the lights lead you to Ongpin Street that will surely never miss to water your mouth with authentic Chinese foods including the iconic tikoy, dumplings, and fried chicken. And of course, do not forget to buy your Lucky Charms to bring more luck for the year of the horse. For Pinoy vendors, celebrations like the Chinese New Year are among the best time for business, especially for Angelita, a single mom who has been selling in Binondo for 4 years already.
Kahit na nag-pandemic yan, ngayon lang ulit dumami ang tao. Mga Chinese, mahilig naman din po silang bumili. Wala namang problema sa kanila.
The Chinatown Revitalization Project, led by Filipino-Chinese community, aims to position Binondo as a safe, economic, and cultural hub that proves sustainable urban renewal is possible. As the oldest Chinatown in the world, Binondo has once again reaffirmed its cultural significance as a living testament to unity, diversity, and shared heritage in the heart of Manila, with Chinoys optimistic to celebrating more years of stronger and harmonious relationship. Kapatid Arles de los Santos, we are One News.
And speaking of Binondo, the celebration continues as thousands fill the streets of Manila's historic Chinatown. And for the latest, we have our mobile journalist Jazz Paredes reporting to us live tonight. Jazz, kung hey Fachoy, kamusta na dyan sa Binondo?
Muling kung hey Fachoy, at kaninang alas 12 nga ng tanghali, umatak na sa mahigit sa kalahating milyon ang crowd estimate dito ng Manila Police District bandang alas 12 ng hapon. At hanggang ngayon, gaya din ng Year of the Fire Horse ay nag-aalab at buhay na buhay ang selebrasyon dito sa Binondo. Kasabay ng pagbuhos ng ulan ay ang pagbuhos ng nagsana mga taong nakasaya dito sa Binondo. May Chinese, Chinoy at mga purong Pinoy na nakisa sa pagsalubong sa bagong taon. Siksikan ng Ongpin Street ng mga tao, vendors, musiko at mga performers. At balang alas 10 ng kahapon niya kanina, tuloy-tuloy ang buhos ng malakas na ulan pero hindi niya natinag ang kasiyahan dito sa Binondo dahil kahit basa sa ulan ay tuloy pa rin ang flow parade na nagmula pa sa Manila Post Office patungo dito sa Lucky Chinatown. At nangunguna dyan sa flow parade ay si Manila Mayor Isko Moreno na sinundan ni Manila Vice Mayor Chi Atienza. At sinundan din ito ng iba pang makukulay na Chinese themed floats na handog ng Filipino-Chinese community. At kanya-kanyang habot niya at salo ang mga tao sa itinasaboy ng mga regalo mula sa float. At dahil nga bukod sa ulan ay buhos din ang mga regalo gaya ng ampaw, t-shirt, kape at ibang mga pagkain. At ngunit bukod naman sa buhos ng gantimbala ay nag-uumamo na blessings naman yung kahilingan ng ilan sa mga bumisito dito na pumila sa Santo Cristo de Longos Cross para magsindi ng insenso. At syempre, meron din iba't ibang klaseng mga pampaswerte dito na hilera ang mga stalls. Gaya ng mga lucky charm, lucky bracelet, at lucky plants na sinasabi ko bibigay swerte daw sa taong ito kapag meron ka nito sa inyong tahanan o suot po sa iyong katawan. At syempre, patok din ng itong Binondo, mapa-Chinese New Year man o hindi. At ang pinakmabenta ngayon sa Chinese New Year ay yung tikoy, hopya, xiaolongbao at iba pang mga Chinese cuisine. At syempre, upang masiguro yung seguridad dito sa Binondo dahil nga patuloy pa rin yung pagkagsa ng mga tao, ay ayon sa Manila Police District, nasa mahigit kumulang 1,500 yung nakadeploy, nakapulisahan dito sa kahabaan ng Binondo at meron din ibang nakadeploy ng mga non-police, non-commissioned officers. At patuloy din yung kanilang pag-iikot at pagpapatrol niya gamit ng police vehicle upang magpaalala sa mga bisita na ingatan yung kanilang mga gamit upang maiwasan yung nakawan. Muli, dumidilim na pero patuloy pa rin yung pagdagsa ng mga tao dito sa Binondo para makasaya ngayong Chinese New Year. At para naman sa mga hahabol, ang payong daw ng ating kapulisan ay doon sa Lucky Chinatown Mall mag-park dahil puno na yung kahabaan ng Ongpin Street at hindi na makakapasok yung mga sasakyan. At sa ngayon, kung makita nyo sa aking kuran ay ongoing itong cultural dance show dito sa Plaza San Lorenzo Ruiz. At ito yung pinaka-inaabangan talaga dito. Talagang crowd para makinood at makisaya sa ongoing na cultural dance show. At abang may mga bazaar naman dito, bukas ito hanggang mamayang alas 10 ng gabi. Pauline?
Okay. So, kung sa mga gusto pang humabol, no, bago mag-midnight, Jazz, hanggang anong oras yung cultural performance dyan sa likuran mo?
Pauline, no, tinanong din natin yan sa mga organizers kanina. Wala daw silang maibigay na eksaktong oras dahil medyo marami pang performers, so possible na lumampas pa ito sa target na lang alas 10. Dahil nga tuloy-tuloy ito, hindi pa natin masigurado kung hanggang anong oras. Pero kung may mga habol man tuloy, mas better na pupunta na ngayon para hindi nila ma-miss out yung mga performances dito. Pauline.
Okay, so may time pa kami humabol. Susunod daw si Sean.
Nagutom ako dun sa pagkain.
Oo nga eh.
Sarap mag-food trip. All right, but for now, thank you very much for that report. That was our mobile journalist, Jazz Paredes there, reporting to us live from Binondo in Manila. Okay, so happy Chinese New Year to everyone. And on that note, that's it for the big story this Lunar New Year. Thank you so much for watching.
Oo nga, and tomorrow, start na yung Lent, Ash Wednesday na. So we will be here again tomorrow at 8 p.m. We'll see you then.
And that's a big story. Oops, our prompter is not moving. Kapatid, we are one news, all sides, all the time.